I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you would all silently say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Trustee Bussino?
Here.
Trustee Nevers?
Present.
Trustee Oliver?
Here.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
Treasurer Goodhue?
Here.
Clerk Posey here. Supervisor Dunn?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. We will move on to approval of the agenda items. We have one addition, I believe, Ms. Posey, is that correct?
Yes, we have one addition and one request to move an agenda item. So I'll start with the move. The request has been to move agenda item 8A, a resolution to approve pay as you stay program from for Macomb Township from consent agenda to 20A under new business. And then a proposed add-on to closed session would be item number 24, consideration of the dismissal, suspension, or disciplining of employee number 2199 pursuant to MCL 15.268 subsection A. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else have any corrections to the agenda?
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Support Smith.
support by
Trustee Smith.
Ms. Smith to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Madam
Aye.
Chair, Clerk Posey, I need to call the roll.
I'm sorry, call the roll, Ms. Posey.
Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Bussino?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes, and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, thank you. Next, we have the payment of the bills. As usual, there's two bill runs. If anyone wishes an item removed, please indicate so at this time.
Madam Chair, this is Karen Goodhue. I would like to vote on vendor 10281 Foley Mansfield separate from the bill run.
Are you requesting
Anyone
to move
else?
that to new business, Karen?
No, I just want to vote on it separately, so we can vote on that after the rest of the bills are voted on. That would be fine with me.
Any other?
Madam Chair, if there are no other issues, I move that we approve both bill runs. This is Nancy.
Motion by Ms. Nevers,
Support. Goodhue.
supported by
Karen.
Ms. Goodhue to pay both bill runs. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Madam Chair, if I might mention, Trustee Nevers, are you motioning to approve the bill run with the exception of Ms. Goodhue's
Yes,
request? Because it has to be included in your motion then.
I'm sorry. I will repeat. I move that we approve both bill runs with the exception of the Foley Mansfield bill that is going to be voted on separately.
Thank you.
Sure.
Karen, do you support the motion?
I do.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll call the roll call on that. Trustee
Thank you.
Nevers? Trustee Nevers?
Yes?
Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Trustee Bucino?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yeah.
Clerk Posey, yes, and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Now we'll address the Foley Mansfield bill. Ms. Goodhue?
I make a motion that we do not pay the bill.
Support
Motion
by
by Ms.
Nancy.
Goodhue,
Support by Nancy.
seconded by Nancy Nevers. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Bucino. Could we just have discussion now that there's been a motion? Treasurer Goodhue, could you explain why we shouldn't pay the bill?
Because this was never voted on to hire them by the board. We were never asked to approve hiring them, and it's above the supervisor's limit.
This is Trustee Oliver. Karen, is that your only reason? You're not dissatisfied with overbilling or nothing like that? It's just because you feel that Supervisor Dunn did not have authority? That's your position?
Exactly.
Okay. I got a question for the clerk. Was the hours put in? Were they correct?
I have no reason to disagree with the hours that were submitted based on the work that he was here. He spent majority of the time with the supervisor, the clerk, the treasurer, finance director, HR specialist, and the fire chief for the majority of the time.
And just so I'm clear, this was during COVID? Also?
Yeah, it began when Mr. Assorti was put on administrative leave, and he unfortunately took on the challenge of getting us through the process of COVID-19 as well, because it happened in the interim.
Okay, all right. And is finance on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
I don't believe. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a question because you see these bills. Do you see anything different in the hourly rate? Anything that would convince you that something's not right with the bills as far as the hours? Everything matches what they've been already charging us?
Yes, that's what we were
Okay.
charged the previous month hourly.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Madam Chair, would you like me to call the roll?
I would.
Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes?
Trustee Bucino,
No.
Trustee Oliver,
Nope.
Trustee Smith,
No.
Clerk Posey, no, and Supervisor Dunn.
No.
That motion fails.
Thank you. Now I believe we have to have a motion to pay the bill, correct?
Madam Chair, we can go ahead and do that, but I believe since the motion failed not to pay the bill, and it was part of the bill run that was already approved, the bill can be paid. But Mr. Assorti can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
You should go ahead and have a vote on it, since it was, the motion that was originally made indicated that the bill runs were approved with the exception as appointed, as identified by the treasurer.
correct.
Madam
So
Chair,
someone-
Clerk Posey will make a motion to approve invoice 10281 for Foley Mansfield.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Supported by Mr. Oliver.
seconded by Mr. Oliver. To pay the bill. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
No,
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue,
No.
and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes,
That motion
that
carries.
motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda items. These are routine matters that come before the board on a regular basis. If anyone has an issue and they would like to discuss it, please indicate so at this time.
Madam Chair, you missed the previous meeting minutes.
Oh, I'm
Number
sorry. I'm sorry. All right, we'll do the previous meeting minutes from May 27th, 2020. Are there any deletions, additions, or corrections to the minutes?
Madam
Clerk
Chair, I'll make a
Posey,
motion.
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes from May 27th, 2020.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Goodhue, support.
seconded by Ms. Goodhue to approve the minutes from May 27th. Ms. Posey, could you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Clerk Posey, yes. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
yes,
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Thank you. Now we'll do the consent agenda items. Any question on any of the consent items?
Madam Chair, hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as amended.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
support by Nevers.
supported by Ms. Nevers to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes,
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. That motion carries. Next, we have public comments. This is on agenda and non-agenda items. If you wish to speak, please give your name, and remember, there is a 3-minute time limit.
I just want to remind the public that if you wish to speak, you can raise your hand digitally using your Zoom client, or if you called in on your phone, you can press *9, and that will notify us that you wish to speak on this. So right now we have Rob Huff. You're free to speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or good evening, board members. Can you hear me? Testing.
yes,
Yes.
yes, we can.
Thank you. Rob Huth, I'm with my law partner, Bob Kirk, at the GFL offices next to 340 trucks that are parked just an arm's length away from us here in Sterling Heights. Hoping tonight that you consider extending the GFL contract for 3 years. Your waste hauling committee has done an outstanding job and gathered information from 14 neighboring communities, including the one that I live in, Shelby Township, where you'll see that the rates are higher for the neighbors than what you have been able to negotiate from GFL on a proposed extended contract here. 3 years makes sense for the residents of Macomb Township in that it gives some stability in these times of lots of instability in our municipal lives in terms of things that are going on civilly and with the state budgets. I will say also too that I'm mindful of the fact that you folks are running for election, and hopefully those of you running will be reelected, but there's likely going to be some new members on the township board, and a 3-year contract extension gives those new members an opportunity to get to know waste hauling, get to know what it takes to put it out for bid, and will have their feet thoroughly planted when the matter goes out for bids in 3 years from now. I'd say finally, if you're looking for one reason, the one reason to consider it 3 years versus 2 years, the difference is $295,000. You will save your residents $295,000 by extending this contract for 3 years versus 2. And that's simply by taking the difference in the average rate, multiplying it by the 22,000 households that GFL serves by 12 months, and it comes out to $295,000 difference if you accept the 3-year option. The real smart people in the waste hauling business are here. They will answer questions when it comes to that agenda item, if there are any, but I appreciate you giving consideration on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Charles Missig. Go ahead.
Okay, testing.
Yep.
Okay,
We can
thank
hear you.
Hi, guys. It's Charles T. Missig, 16884 Kenneth. I'd like to start off by saying once again, I see nothing on the agenda for the ethics board, which is very troubling, very disappointing. If I am able to be elected, for the first time, that'll be one of my first orders of business. I guess my main thing for tonight is going to be on the political sign ordinance. I was able to find an article from the Macomb Daily going back to June 25th of 2014, when the ACLU they actually made a statement in regards to our sign ordinance back then. And what they ruled was that it violated the constitutional right to free speech. And the ACLU at that time demanded that the township immediately repeal it. And they actually sent a letter to Ms. Dunn, who was the supervisor back then also. So I'm just kind of hoping that maybe you guys can maybe find a way to make it a little bit, I guess, extend it to maybe like tomorrow. I actually like my signs, and I've always been a sign guy. So, and the thing about the fact that the signs can't go up, until 30 days before August 4th. I mean, the absentee ballots are out already, and I've always felt like the more that people see your name, it obviously helps your campaign. Obviously, you want to have some kind of a background as a candidate also. I think I've established that since 2008 as a candidate for a charter commission, supervisor in 2012, clerk in 2016, board of commissioners in 2018, and now currently as a candidate for trustee. So if you guys would be so kind as to extend that a little bit further out, like perhaps tomorrow, that would be awesome. You guys take care. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Daniel Vennett. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board, for giving me a moment tonight to speak. I sent you all an email on Monday in regards to item number 18, request to extend the waste hauling contract. First, I just wanted to thank Ms. Nevers for responding to that and taking time out of her day to respond directly to that. It is greatly appreciated. Priority Waste, you may or may not know about us, but we're an American, locally owned and managed waste and recycling company based in your neighboring city of Clinton Township. We pride ourselves on two facets of the industry: provide excellent service for the residents and the businesses that choose us as a partner, and to be active in the communities that we live and work in every day. We support and are active in Lions Club events, the Macomb County Rotating Emergency Shelter Team, or otherwise known as McRest. We sponsor numerous events with New Baltimore for their Civic Club stake, and I could go on for a while with that. But while we're a younger company, our work ethic and our commitment to partnerships have allowed us to interrupt the industry here locally and grow at an exponential rate. We have route supervisors that follow our crews to add an additional layer for missed pickups or late putouts of the residents. And we have a dedicated employee that handle issues as they arrive and work diligently to monitor social media for anything that comes up directly from the residents. Because of what I've previously stated, we've been able to partner with 5 municipalities in the last year. Currently, Your Neighbors of New Baltimore started with us in September of 2019. And as of last night, Your Other Neighbors, the City of Utica, chose us for their next provider with services to begin in July. We all know times have been difficult in Michigan and around the country with what we went through with the pandemic. What we at Priority Waste are familiar with is your contracts and the rates that you currently have. And we know that we can confirm that we're able to provide a significant savings in comparison to that. I know in the email that Ms. Nevers sent me, it was appreciative, and it was mentioned that you were leaning towards a renewal, but we just hope and ask that it can maybe be delayed for a conversation with the Waste Committee, because again, we would just like to have an input from our perspective and provide an input from a competitor in the local market. Again, thank you very much, everybody, for giving me a moment to speak.
Okay, next we have Peter Lucido III. Go ahead.
Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm not hearing anybody. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, now we can.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Echoing.
Okay. I'm sorry. You can hear me now, though.
Yes.
I'm not sure what's happened, Ryan, but it appears we've lost connection.
Okay. So we'll
If he
move on
wants to raise his hand and try again, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see if he can get back on. Next we got Kathy Western. Go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Western. I'm a Macomb Township resident. I would first like to comment on agenda item number 20. This is the proposal by Treasurer Karen Goodhue to change our ordinance regarding political signs. Now, in the memo that Karen Goodhue included in the packet for tonight's meeting, she states that many communities are allowing political signs to be placed earlier than their ordinances allow, according to what's on the books. When you get to item number 20 tonight, I would like to hear from Treasurer Karen Goodhue about the research she has done, and if she would please name the many communities that she says have altered their ordinance on political signs. It is my understanding that the Supreme Court has ruled that you cannot have ordinances that have different rules for political signs than exist for any other temporary signs. And communities that try to do this are at risk of litigation. The Michigan Municipal League has said that your township attorney should advise you on how much content neutrality is required in our sign regulations. Now, of course, in our current situation, since your township attorney is suing you, it may be a little awkward to ask him to provide legal advice, but I do implore you to try to not alter an ordinance that is already significantly flawed. Maybe you can dismiss this ordinance and actually direct your attorney to rewrite the signed ordinance and report back to you at the next meeting. My next comment is regarding the fairy tale that Tim Bussino told us during the last meeting about the source of $10,000 in post-primary contributions he received last election cycle. It honestly sounded like Mr. Bussino does not know where these $1,000 contributions came from. He suggested I do more research on them, and I did. Doing that deeper dive actually made the optics worse. The money did not come from residents, as he claimed, and the actual sources are difficult to be traced. So transparency is kind of out the window here, Mr. Bussino, unless you are willing to actually be upfront about where these contributions came from. But what was missing in Mr. Bussino's comments while he told his story about the Mystery Political Action Committee is that he dodged the issue of his blocking his constituents from being able to comment on his social media account. And he has totally blocked some residents, and as I come out, a number of township employees from being able to read his posts when he writes about issues he is handling as a Macomb Township trustee. Again, Mr. Bussino, it is disingenuous of you to claim to be a champion of transparency and, quote, a voice the residents deserve, while blocking them from information you write intended to educate.
You're way over your time limit.
Well, I appreciate the time that I was given. I will wrap up by saying that there are people who say that they ask tough questions, but they will not permit tough questions to be asked of them. Thank you for your time. That concludes my comments for the night.
Okay, it looks like Peter Lucido is back, so we'll give him another shot. Go ahead, Peter.
Can everyone hear me this time?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
I apologize. I was on a headset and it just would not connect. I apologize. Peter Lucido III, 16717 phase. I just wanted to discuss item number 20 with the signs. Just wanted to say that in this time, especially of COVID, where there's going to be no face-to-face interaction, there's really going to be no meet and greets. The only thing we can do are Zoom calls and Facebook posts or other social media posts. I think when the absentee ballots go out, the signs need to be out as well. That's going to be our only way of reaching people that are not on social media because there's no face-to-face. So regardless of any other reasons of freedom of speech or anything like that, I just think it's common sense, especially this year, that we're able to put those signs out as soon as possible. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
We had Frank Cusimano. I think I inadvertently lowered his hand. Here he is.
It's back up.
Great. Go ahead, Frank. Sorry about that.
Unmute now. Okay, Frank Cusimano, 16188 Jenny Drive. I'm making public comment tonight on several of the budget matters. I noticed on page 37 of the budget that tap fees and frontage charges go from $1.58 million down to zero. I was wondering if anyone was going to ask a question about that. Also, there's on the same page 37, a penalty on delinquent water and sewage bills of $135,000. I have a question for Treasurer Hughes. You had the board pass a resolution on your motion which would transfer the water and sewage bills that are late to the taxes, and wouldn't it seem logical that people who are financially distressed and not able to pay their water and sewage bill, then putting it on their taxes and heaping a 15% penalty on them, which is, I presume, where this $135,000 of revenue stream is generated from? Is it a little bit intellectually inconsistent to claim that your for pay-as-you-stay program by Treasurer Larry Roca? I also would like to object to the GFL extension of 3 years. I think that it should be a shorter term extension and that the board should invite public comment regarding the services that have been provided by GFL. There's also been this presentation by the other vendor whose name, Priority Waste out of Clinton Township, who indicated he could save us money. And I think that the public deserves to hear those rates and see whether or not it is in fact advantageous to maybe even have a shorter extension than what has been presented by GFL. I will say that GFL's rate is extremely low. However, I believe that it was tainted regarding the involvement of Clifford Freitas and Dino Bucci, and I'm a little bit suspicious and would like to have it open for bid, which brings me to the revenue stream from Comcast, the cable franchise fee of $1.2 million in the budget. Has that been going out to bid? And jumping back to the waste management, waste hauling contract, there's an ordinance that the board passed. It's an ordinance of Macomb Township. I want to know if the ordinance has been followed. I think it requires competitive bidding. That concludes my comments for tonight, and I appreciate your attention to my concerns. Hold on, there's one other item. There's been sidewalk repairs between 25 and 24 Mile Road. And again, there's no ordinance, and I wanted to know why there's no ordinance. It was brought up a long time ago. Mr. Assorti indicated he was going to draft an ordinance. I sent a email to the supervisor and also to, I believe, several of the trustees that I would object to any work being billed by the township absent an ordinance. That concludes my remarks. Thank you for indulging me with that last matter. Have a good night.
Okay, Madam Supervisor, we don't have anybody else.
Thank you. Then we will move on to the public hearing. And this is a public hearing for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget. I will open the public hearing. It is 7:35. Ms. Smith, I believe we had a couple of changes. Would you go through that, please?
Sure. Good evening. There were only two changes. One I spoke about at the last meeting, and that was for the planning and zoning and the general fund on page 7. For the consulting contract services, there was a request to increase that for an additional $75,000 to help with the cost of the master plan. And then just today, I received a request to change the fire improvement fund on page 27 for equipment to increase that $346,000, and that is just due to the fire station was scheduled to get their KME Super Duty Ford Mini Pumper in June, but they just found out today that it will not be here until the beginning of July, and there was nothing budgeted that year. So we're moving that into next budget year. I can address Mr. Kuzmano's tap fees and frontages. The reason you see nothing budgeted in the request for 2021 is that because there are 6 different line items that at the end of the fiscal year get rolled up into that tap fees and frontage charges. So if you look at the very first column for audited prior year, you'll see zeros in the lateral water fees, lateral sewer fees, customer meter charge installation, water tap connection, capital charges to tap sewer, capital charges to water, and those 6 line items get rolled up into the tap fees and frontage charges at the end of the fiscal year. So they are budgeted separately for next year, and I don't want water and sewer to budget twice, so I asked them to put a 0 in for estimated for this year and for next year. With that, I will open it up to any other questions or comments anyone may have.
First, we'll take questions or comments from the board. Anyone? Hearing no one, then we'll ask for questions from the public.
Okay, we have Frank Cusimano. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to unmute my speaker. On the last item that was just answered, my question is that consistent with the prevailing accounting practice for municipalities, what was just indicated? I think it's GASB practice would be the question. And has that been vetted through legal counsel that the way that it's being booked is correct and accurate under the accounting practices? That ends my question. Thank you.
I have not personally brought it to our legal director, but this has been done for all the last 18 years, I believe, and our auditors, Plant Moran, had asked us to do it that way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, we have phone number ending in 1120. Go ahead.
Yes, this is trustee candidate John Parkinson. I chimed in for the open meetings conversation, the public comments, and wasn't able to comment. So can I have that 3 minutes right now?
No. We're in a public hearing, in the middle of a public hearing. This is about the budget.
Wonderful. I will make sure that I file an Open Meetings Act violation with the circuit court. Thank you.
This is about the budget. Do you have a question about the budget?
Because I didn't get my time, and when I chimed in, because your system is not working properly, I will make sure I file the proper.
Could you wait until I'm
channel.
finished with the public hearing?
Yeah, if you would give me the 3 minutes after the public hearing, I would love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that has any comments or questions from the public?
I don't think so. Let me double check here. No, nobody else.
Very well. I will close the public hearing. It is 7:40 p.m. Mr. Parkinson, you have 3 minutes. Mr. Parkinson.
He dropped off here. Sorry, Mr. Parkinson, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, board. Recently, I filed a FOIA request, the FOIA number 2022097. It's been closed. It's on invoice number 2553421. It was the Foley Mansfield invoice for the last meeting. What I'd like to know is how that process goes as far as payment. I'd love to see the check, a copy of the check, paid check. That was the request that I had made. It basically said the copy of the check, it does not exist yet. I'm not sure why, if that's the same invoice that you guys had an issue with tonight. I would love to see a copy of the paid invoice, paid check for that invoice. My other comment is for the waste hauling. I have made this comment before in a public meeting. I have spoken to residents of New Baltimore about Priority Waste, and their savings was only $4 and some change, I believe. And a lot of them were not happy with Priority Waste. Some of them were. I would like to have the board table this decision until we could find out what our actual savings would be going further with Priority Waste or staying on with GFL. It makes sense that GFL is going to save us over $290,000 that we would do the 3-year contract. However, I would like to see what Priority Waste does have to offer us. Thank you. That concludes my comments for the evening.
Very well. We will now move on to new business. And under water and sewer, we have a contract modification number 2 for sanitary sewer rehabilitation by FCIPP and SCIPP lining. Mr. Wangland.
Thank you, Supervisor Dunn and board members. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Tonight, Water and Sewer is in front of you asking for a contract modification. And what this actually is an extension to last year's contract. As we're all aware, part of the CIP program is cleaning and TV and sewers, and the other portion is lining and rehabbing and doing repairs. And that's where this modification comes in. Last year, we had a good relationship with Insitraform, who was last summer's low bidder, and they have offered to keep the same rates for this summer, thus the contract modification in the amount of $591,627.70. Water and Sewer is recommending we move forward with this contract modification so Insitraform can move forward with rehabbing and lining and doing repairs as needed. I'm available for questions, please.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Wangland?
Trustee Oliver here. Mr. Wangland, I got one just quick question. Are we gonna rehab any new lines right now, or do we got some on the books to do?
We have, Mr. Oliver, we have a list of manhole runs or lines that need to be done. So, we have a program in place where we know we have a target as to what needs to be done, yes.
Good, okay. Is our older side of the community, is it holding up, or is there an area that needs attention?
Well, Macomb Township's sewer system is like any other sewer system. The older lines definitely need some more attention. The bulk of this work is basically south of 23 Mile Road, yes.
Good. All right, thank you, Jerry. You guys are doing a great job now, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments, questions, or motions?
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, Charlie.
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Oliver. I'll make the motion to approve the contract modification. The net change.
Mr. Oliver.
Clerk Posey,
Supported by
support.
Nevers. I'm sorry. Supported by Nevers.
By Mr. Oliver. Or a second for this motion?
Madam Chair, Trustee Nevers has supported the motion.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, seconded by Ms. Smith to approve the contract modification.
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Posey, would
it
you
was,
call the
it was
roll?
trustee, Madam Chair, just, it was trustee Nevers for the record that supported that motion. I'll call the roll accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, trustee Oliver,
Yes.
trustee Nevers,
Yes.
trustee Bucino,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
clerk Posey, yes, supervisor Dunn.
Yes. That motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have an approval request to award the contract for the restoration work of Country Club Drive landscape area. Mr. Wangland.
Thank you again, Supervisor Dunn and board members. Water and Sewer Department is in front of you tonight requesting for approval to award the restoration of Country Club Drive area landscape. This work was originally scheduled to be part of the Country Club sewer repair project. However, due to the COVID-19 situation and all the circumstances around the situation, this project has been delayed. And I might add that this project will request to be awarded at the next meeting in June. So let me continue on here with my memo. This restoration project is needed due to the gas relocation project that took place last winter, where we needed to move the water main or the gas from the north side to the south side. So with that said, this project was placed on Mitten with 49 companies, landscaping companies viewing the proposal, and one company did submit a bid on the Mitten program. And we are recommending that this project be awarded to Heritage Oaks Landscaping in the amount of $33,850. And I believe in your packet is the recommendation from Janet Solomon regarding the Mitten program, and I think who is also our purchasing specialist. Thank you.
Any questions on this?
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd just like to make a comment with regards to Mr. Wangland and to all the residents that this delay affected. Mr. Wangland was extremely concerned for these residents in the spring, and he was diligently trying to get this on the agenda for approval, but due to the COVID pandemic and the restricted agenda items, he patiently waited. And I just want to say thank you to the residents that waited this out with us through the pandemic, and for Mr. Wangland diligently trying to get this accommodated for them. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Any comments,
Madam
questions?
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Bucino. I just do want to follow up with that comment a bit. Jerry answered a lot of questions for me too, and did a great side. And one thing I do want to add to the comments that were just made is there is going to be a little bit of a difference between the north side and south side residents on that street, I believe, Jerry. But I do want to follow up because she answered those same questions for me. Thanks.
I guess on that note, board members, I'd like to expand on what Trustee Bucino said. The game plan there, if this is approved tonight, is sprinkler repair on Friday and Saturday of this week still on both sides of the road, and then total landscaping and sod repair on the south side starting next week. We will not be putting sod on the north side of the road because of the sewer project, which we hope will start sometime in mid to late July. So in our eyes, it doesn't make sense to put down brand new sod here next week and then tear it all back up here in approximately 5 to 6 weeks. Thank you.
That makes sense.
Other questions or comments or motions?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve to award the contract to Heritage Oaks Landscaping for the restoration work of Country Club Drive landscape area sanitary sewer repair project in the amount of $33,850.
Is that what, Ms. Posey?
Yes.
Yes.
And seconded by
Ms. Posey.
Nevers.
It was supported by Trustee Nevers, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would you call the roll?
Yes. Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Thank you.
That motion carries.
Thank you, board
We will
members.
go on- We will go on now to the engineering department, and the first one is a request for permission to execute the cost-sharing agreement with Macomb County Department of Roads for the 23-mile road reconstruction and widening project. Mr. Van Tifflin.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, board members. The Macomb County Department of Roads has gotten to a point with their plans for the widening of 23 Mile Road between North Avenue and Card Road that they're asking us to execute the cost sharing agreement that is required for the local match. The county and the township split the local match to the federal funds equally 50-50. We have they've given us a cost estimate in that agreement of $780,000. And if you recall, this is the design and the right-of-way acquisition was done as part of a separate agreement earlier. This is only for the construction, and that's the $780,000. We've reviewed the agreement and are recommending approval.
Thank you. Any questions on this?
Trustee Oliver has a question. Mr. Van Tifflin, when do you think you're gonna continue that project?
From what we're hearing from the Department of Roads, it sounds like they're going to be going out to bid later this year for construction, maybe starting yet this fall, maybe over the winter. Just depends on who the contractor is and what their ability is to start the work, I suppose.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else with a question?
Hearing none, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to request permission to execute cost-sharing agreement for construction costs with Macomb County Department of Roads for 23 Mile Road reconstruction and widening project between Card and North Avenue in the amount of $780,000.
Trustee Oliver motions that. Trustee Oliver second.
Motion by Ms. Posey, seconded by Mr. Oliver to execute this agreement. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Thank you.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Request to schedule a public hearing for a street lighting SAD for the enclave at Legacy Estates. Mr. Van Tifflin, you and I talked about this earlier. I believe that the developer is the only one that owns any lots in there. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is the a requirement under the ordinance to provide street lighting for all single-family residential developments. And we're recommending a public hearing date of July 8th.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions? This is very simple. It's just setting a date.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we schedule the public hearing for a street lighting SAD for Enclave at Legacy Estates, Phases 1 and 2, for July the 8th, 2020.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Supported by Smith.
supported by Ms. Smith to set July the 8th as the date for the public hearing. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, thank you.
That motion carries.
Next, we have a request to award the contract for the 2020 Pathway Gap Closure Program. Mr. Van Tiffelen.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, board members. On April 21st, the township opened bids for the 2020 Pathway Gap Closure Program. JSS Macomb was the low bidder at $474,474.00. We have spent some time, we have not worked with this company before, so we've done some time doing our due diligence, calling references, meeting with the contractor virtually, going over the project. We are now in a position where we are recommending approval to award the contract to JSS Macomb in the amount of $474,474.00. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Van Tiffelen?
Was that J.F. Macomb, Mr. Van Tiffelen?
JSS Macomb.
Oh, JFF, okay. I'll make a motion that we award the contract to JFF Macomb for the 2020 Pathway Gap Closure Program in the amount of $474,474.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue.
Supported by Nevers.
Supported by Ms. Nevers to award the contract as recommended. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Bucino?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn?
Yes. That
Motion
motion
carries.
carries. Next is a request for authorization to proceed with 25 Mile and Garfield Romeo Plank water main relocation. Mr. Van Tiffelen.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, board members, I believe the board is aware that the Macomb County Department of Roads is working on a design for a roundabout in this intersection. This is the western leg. Eastern leg already has a roundabout in it. They're working on finalizing these plans. I believe they're in the right-of-way acquisition phase. We have been provided with a plan for that roundabout. As part of our due diligence between the Water and Sewer Department and the Engineering Department, we typically would look at utility locations, specifically the water main, to see if we have any conflicts with the pavement. We have done that. The water main in the area was set up for a four-way intersection, not a roundabout. So with the roundabout going in, we'll have a bit of water main that will be under the pavement, including some valves that in order for us to operate those valves, we'd have to actually close the intersection down. So we have prepared an estimate that's in the board packet for $446,425 to have the water main relocated so that it's not underneath the pavement. So if the Water and Sewer Department has to dig it up or make a tap on it, the road would be able to stay open. So we are recommending that we move forward with this project and get the design and permitting done so that we can get this out to bid and bring the bid back to the board at a later date. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Jim, this Charlie Oliver here. One quick question. What was the number, the amount?
$446,425. And that's an estimate. You know, obviously we would,
yeah,
you know, this still needs to be
Yep.
bid. That's our best guess at this point.
Yep. Okay. I didn't get it clear there. Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Trustee
Anyone
Oliver here, if there's no more discussion, I'd make a motion to pay that $446,425 for the 25 Mile and Garfield Romeo Plank water main relocation.
Motion by Mr. Oliver,
Supported by Smith.
seconded by Ms. Smith to approve this request. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Bucino? Trustee
Oh,
Bucino?
his phone went out. He's waving in the window. He's having he got disconnected.
Okay, I'll come back to him. Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Tim,
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn,
Yes.
just say. You got it? Are you, Clerk Posey, would you wait on 1 second? Tim, did you get
Yes.
back on? Okay, Tim's gonna say, did you get it?
all set, thank you.
He said yes.
Motion
Yeah.
carries, Madam Supervisor.
Thank you. Next, we have a request from Michigan Department of Transportation to participate in masked armed signal traffic signals and decorative crosswalks along M59 to Romeo Plank to the township limits to the east. Mr. Van Tifflin.
Yes, ma'am. Chairperson, board members. A couple years ago, when MDOT went in and reconstructed M59, essentially west of Romeo Plank, they worked with the local municipalities. There were 5 in total who participated in upgrading the traffic signals and the crosswalks to make them more appealing for the corridor as a whole. They are now ready to put together bid plans for the next phase of that reconstruction, which is basically east of Romeo Plank, headed towards I-94. They are asking if Macomb Township and Clinton Township want to participate in doing those more decorative features in that section, like were done to the west of Romeo Plank. So they have provided us with the estimate. If we want both done, the total is $63,925.03. And that is both for the black mast arms and the decorative crosswalk red brick that everybody has seen, driving to the west. They have told us that Clinton Township has already approved this, but they do need Macomb Township to approve it before they can go ahead and put it in their bidding documents and include it in the contract for the work. So we are recommending approval just to keep the consistency of the corridor. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yes. And Jim, if I may, this $63,925.03, that's just our portion, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is just our portion.
Okay.
Clinton Township would
Just our
pay
portion.
for their side of M59 on their own.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we participate in the masked armed traffic signals and decorative crosswalks along M59 for the amount of $63,925.03.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
It's supported by Nevers.
supported by Ms. Nevers to grant this request as submitted. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Bussino,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes, and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, thank
That
you.
motion carries.
We have a request to award geotechnical services for Foss Road Sewer Extension and Whitney Macomb Park projects. Mr. Van Tifflin.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, board members. We have reached a point with the design of the park and the sanitary sewer that will serve the park that we need to get some geotechnical investigation work done. We have requested proposals from firms that do this type of work. Tonight, we are recommending that the Township Board award this project to Intertech PSI for a total of $39,150.00. And that is basically broken down into $15,400 for the Foss Road sewer extension part of it, and then $23,750 for the Whitney Park portion of the project. We are recommending approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Van Tiffin?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to award geotechnical services for Foss Road Sewer Extension and Whitney Macomb Park projects in the amount of $39,150.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Nope, Smith.
Madam Chair, that was trustee Smith.
seconded by Ms. Smith to approve the award for geotechnical services as requested. Would you call the roll, Ms. Posey?
Yes, Madam Chair, for the record, trustee Smith made the motion. I will support it, and I'll call the roll accordingly.
Thank you.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Bucino?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn?
Yes,
That motion carries.
carries. Thank you. Next, from the supervisor's office is a request to extend the waste hauling contract. Ms. Nevers, since you are the chairperson of this committee, would you like to present on this?
Yes, I shall. Thank you. I will make the motion to request an extension of the waste hauling contract with GFL for 3 years.
Motion by Ms. Nevers.
Madam Chair, this is trustee Smith. I just have one question. I'm not comfortable voting to extend a 3-year contract without a bid. Wouldn't we normally bid this out?
Madam Chair, this is trustee Bucino. I have an answer to that. I was on the committee. We could bid this out. If Ms. Solomon's on the line, she might want to explain that. I wanted to say before we get into this discussion that I've been on 3 or 4 Zoom calls with first Supervisor Dunn, and then our deputy supervisor has gotten involved. Ms. Solomon, her skill set in the purchasing is incredible. And we've had some of the most positive conversations, and we've asked that exact question. I think there are some issues on getting a bid out that quick before the contract extends. I don't know if Ms. Solomon's here on the line. She might help
she
express
is.
some of those.
Ms. Solomon?
Okay.
Ms. Solomon, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about all of our options. We talked about sending this out for bid, which is why it's on the agenda, because if it's not approved, then we really need to get moving fast at this point because we are rather late in getting this started. So we took a look at a number of things. We started with the bid packages that were submitted back in 2015. And so at that time, four companies responded to the invitation for bid or the request for proposal for the contract for the waste hauler collection and disposal. And GFL was the most competitive vendor. And since in the years 2 and 3, GFL would have come in second if we were sending this out for bid now and we received those exact same bids, because all of the companies that responded did reply in 2015 with their out-year bids for a contract extension. GFL, since the 2015 bid, has actually reduced their prices even further for those out years, so that they would be the lowest bidder for the out years as well. And that is why, and then we think that the community has been generally happy with the service that GFL has provided. And in addition to reducing their out year pricing, they've also agreed to dedicate a customer service person for the township to handle any problems or issues that are phoned in by residents. And that's how we came to the conclusion that we would request the 3-year extension.
Madam Chair, if I may, Madam Chair, if I may, this is Nancy Nevers. Janet, that was an excellent summation. And I'd just like to say hats off to Janet Solomon for all the hard work and the professionalism that she brought to this process. Thank you.
Ms. Solomon, this is Janet Dunn. If we were to start all over again, have to write an RFP, go out for bid, review the bidding process, and decide on a contract, how long would that take us?
Well, I think that we are running very tight on time, and that would even depend too on how long it would take someone else that we may award a contract to even get up and running, and how long it takes them to prepare and get us scheduled. So we are kind of, the bid package is not ready to go out yet. It has been worked on, but I would say that it is not at a point where tomorrow we could issue the package. I would hope to be able to issue that the first week in July. And then we'd have to work through the process from there. So we're very late on timing. The contract does expire on September 30th with GFL. So.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Bussino. Yeah, this is Trustee Bussino, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up a little bit too with the good question that that Trustee Smith asked. We had a lot of these discussions, and I can tell you one of the things we're worried about, to piggyback on what Ms. Solomon just said, is we're not exactly sure where we're still at with this pandemic. Is there going to be another issue in the fall, which some people have said? I hope there's not another issue, but do we really want our residents going through a pause in the fall because a new company has some glitches getting stuff up and running and the recycling? But this is a very, very tough issue. I think we all admit that. GFL admits it. We asked some extremely tough questions, and going into this, I mean, it's no secret that this is a sensitive issue in our township. But we really, I mean, probably the biggest discussion we had as a committee is it the best thing to do right now to put it out in a bid and maybe have some disruption of service with everything else our residents are going through right now? But I mean, if the board wanted to go out for bid, I'm not going to, try to put a stop to that. But it's definitely something we talked about quite extensively in our Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, this is Clerk Posey. I was worked with Janet Solomon prior to, unfortunately, the bidding process was delayed extensively due to the pandemic. So I removed myself from the committee in an effort to put all my focus on the elections. Prior to that happening, Ms. Solomon, as she indicated, had compared a lot of the quotes and information that we had received previously. My only concerns is that whole process seems to be questionable from the previous time this contract was up. And in addition to that, I think it's really important that, and we allow for public engagement. Our hopes was to have a town hall where residents had the opportunity to come in and speak about what's important to them with regards to their waste trash services. Is it quality? Is it price? Is it a little bit of both? What is it they really want, and what's their expectations? And I think because it's such a huge service that's in our community and such a large contract, I think it's really important to engage our residents. I don't necessarily believe it takes 3 years to accomplish that. I am in agreement to being sensitive to the recent pandemic and GFL recognizing that and keeping their costs where they are. But when Ms. Solomon put those prices together, I don't remember seeing anything on the list for this company that spoke this evening. So it would appear there's new businesses now in the trash hauler services that may not have been considered back then because they weren't a company. So I would like to consider an 18-month extension. which we can look at a later date. I know Ms. Solomon has a good solid shell for this to go out for bid put together. But I think it's important that we have a town hall of some sort to get our residents' input on that. So I think locking a board, especially in an election year where the board could change dramatically into a 3-year contract would potentially be a mistake, but that's just my opinion. I think 18 months would be sufficient. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there's a motion on the floor. Could we have a vote, please?
Supervisor.
Is someone going to?
There was a motion by Ms. Nevers, but it was not seconded. Ms. Smith, you started, but then you wound up turning it into a question. Did you still want to second this motion?
Supervisor Dunn. Supervisor Dunn. Don Barrett with GFL. Hello.
Yes.
Madam Chair, wouldn't be appropriate for someone to speak other than the board right now.
Yes, please.
We did give GFL a participant code so that they could speak, and they may want to speak to the length of the proposed 18 months. We actually have not discussed that with GFL, and that may be what they wish to speak on.
Madam Chair, I would like to get a support on the motion to open that discussion.
So you're looking for a
I'll do the
motion?
support.
Okay.
Goodhue support right now.
I'm still waiting to see if Mr. Beretta is there or wants to speak. Anybody from GFL?
Janet, he's in here, but I don't know if he was speaking and then he muted himself, it looked like.
All right, any other questions then?
I'm here. Supervisor Dunn, I'm here. I'm sorry. I just wanted to chime in. I've been listening to everything that's been going on in regards to the solid waste extension. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. Wanted to chime in on what Rob Booth had said earlier about the savings, the $295,000 savings if you go with the 3 years. That's the savings between the second and third year. But a couple of things that I'd like to bring up to you is that we've been in the township for 4 years and 9 months now. Hello. Yeah, we've been in the township for 4 years and 9 months now. And Macomb residents have enjoyed the same rate over the past 4 years and 9 months. There's been no increase during that 5-year period. We also have a senior discount that they can enjoy. We have unlimited bulk collection where people aren't restricted to put out a piece or two. We take whatever is out. We do have a rep that's going to be just for Macomb Township that'll be stationed right here in Sterling at our Sterling Heights location to take care of everything for you folks. I'll always still be available. And I've heard that we've heard a number of times where somebody comes in and says, "Oh, if you put it out to bid, we can save you money." And there's a number of contracts that we have retained simply because it went out to bid, and the competitor that came in and said, "We can save you money," has been unable to do that. So we would love to stay in, and be the provider in Macomb for the next 3 years. I think that you have exceptional service. If there are issues, we're there to resolve them immediately. You have a supervisor dedicated to Macomb Township, and he's there every day. So, I mean, we hope that you feel as we do that the thing to do right now with everything that's going on and you know, and the one thing that we've always have new equipment in the township, and, you know, we look for that extension to offset some of our depreciation. So we would love to continue to be your supervisor, and I'd love to give you the names of cities that went out to bid when they were promised by somebody that they could save them money, that they just didn't do it. And it, you know, when that happens, it's better for us. And if they would have went with the extension, they would have ended up saving money. So I'd like to answer any questions you might have, but we're ready to keep going and to continue to be your solid waste provider.
Any more questions?
Madam Chair, I would just like to, I appreciate Mr. Beretta speaking. I just think that the opportunity wasn't entirely fair to anybody else that would like to give some type of presentation on their services or their prices. So I just like to note that that I just don't think that was the appropriate way to go about that. But that's just my opinion.
Madam Chair, I just want to tell, I believe that the committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, in one of the conversations with Deputy Supervisor and with Janet Solomon and Ms. Nevers and myself, I believe we invited GFL to come to try to explain some of this tonight, but maybe I'm wrong. And if we did and we ever stepped their bounds, I'm sorry, but I don't want to attack a company here, but I think we invited them to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Busno, for clarifying.
Trustee Oliver has a question.
Go ahead.
So can we ask Mr. Beretta a question?
Sure.
That's a yes. Okay, Trustee Oliver here. Trustee Oliver here, Mr. Beretta. I got one quick question for you. There was kind of a recommendation that we would go 18 months instead of the 36 months, was 3 years. Is that something you could work with, or is that something that's got to be renegotiated?
2 years. It was something that was never discussed in any of our prior conversations. What do you want?
Does that answer your question, Mr. Oliver?
Yeah. Yep.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to postpone it so that we can get that question answered.
There is a motion on the floor right now. It was made by Ms. Nevers.
A motion to postpone can go over, can supersede a motion.
I'm waiting for a second, but hearing none.
I second it. Here, Goodhue seconded it.
Who is aye?
Karen Goodhue.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Nevers, seconded by Ms. Goodhue to extend the waste hauling contract. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Treasurer Goodhue? Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Trustee Bussino?
Clerk Posey, I just got to ask a question. Are we voting to extend or postpone right now? I just got to clear that up. We had confusion last meeting on one. Is this motion to extend the contract?
Yes, technically parliamentary procedure allows for a postponement to supersede the motion for discussion, which is what I did. If it receives support, then it's tabled and no further discussion happens.
Is that what we're voting on right now?
No,
we are
the chair
voting
has
on the extension.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just trying to clear that up. So my vote would be yes.
Trustee Oliver?
No.
Trustee Smith?
No.
Clerk Posey, no. Supervisor Dunn?
Yes.
That motion carries.
That motion carries.
Madam Chair, I would just like to say that my vote no was in regards to the 3-year extension. I would have preferred to have gone with an 18-month extension. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll
Thank you
move
very
on
much.
now.
Just muted.
We will move on to the school liaison officer for the school year of 2020-21. Lieutenant Briney has asked me if I would ask the township board if they will consider keeping the second liaison officer at Dakota High School. Ms. Smith from Finance and myself discussed this at quite some length, and it is in the budget for the coming year. So it wouldn't be that we're changing anything, because it will help out both of the, it would help out the department, the sheriff's office, as well as the high school. And all I'm looking for right now is whether or not you want to do this.
Trustee Oliver has a question. Ms. Dunn?
Go ahead.
Is the 137,000, is that just for one officer, or how many deputies does that cover?
I think that's for both. Stacy, are you still there?
I am, and yes, that's for 2 officers.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yep, that was one question, and the other question is, do we have any other schools that participate in this, or is just one?
It's just Dakota.
Okay. No request
He
for
does
other
a
schools?
lot, excuse me, he does a lot of work at the middle school and also at the high school center to try and get these boys and girls on the right path. It's not just
Good.
Dakota, it's that whole complex over there.
Yeah, I've heard some decent stories about what they do and how they participate with things in the school. So it's a good program. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam
Anyone
Chair,
else?
yes, Madam Chair, this is Trustee Bussino. Of course, I will support this. I always support the liaison officers. I was just wondering if the Sheriff's Department has had any conversations, though, if next year's school year looks different. I had a conference call with my school district today that we're not 100% what the school year is going to look like. So if we don't come back in the traditional classroom, have to take pauses, is this an hourly or a salary position? Like, do you understand my question? Like, if they don't have to work the workload they normally do, is it something that might be a credit to the next year, or is this like a salary position?
Well, this COVID whole thing is, we're all in uncharted territory. But I can call and ask them what they will do with this officer if school is actually not in session physically. I mean,
Okay,
that
thank you.
never came up in the conversation before because we've never faced this situation
Correct.
before.
Correct. Thank you.
We can find out for sure.
Madam Chair, this is Clerk Posey. So do you need a motion on this, or is it just informational only?
No, I would like to have a motion, please.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the school resource officer for 2020-2021.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Supported by Smith.
seconded by Ms. Smith, to notify the Sheriff's Department that the board agrees to the second officer. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Bussino?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver? trustee Oliver? I think we have a trustee board member offline, so I'll skip trustee Oliver. Treasurer Goodhue
Yes.
and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, that motion carries.
Madam Chair, do you want to wait a minute to see if Mr. Oliver gets back online? The motion carries regardless of his vote, but if he wants to be included in that, we may wait a minute.
We can move on to the second, to the next topic and then come back to Mr. Oliver.
Sure. Madam Chair, Mr. Oliver's in the other room and he's yelling to me that he voted yes, but he's trying to hook back into the phone, into the meeting.
Okay,
That motion carries.
thank you. Next is the Treasurer's Office request for discussion on the sign ordinance. Ms. Goodhue.
Yes, this weekend I was in Mount Clemens and I noticed a lot of the signs were up already in Mount Clemens. And in talking with someone from there, they said that they did that. They allowed the signs to go up earlier because of the pandemic, and they are trying to, dissuade people from going door to door. So by allowing them to put their signs up, it's giving them half a chance. It also, if we pass this tonight, it only makes it 3 weeks earlier at this time, and that would help also with the absentee ballots, because the way it is right now, the absentee ballots go out before the signs go up, like one of the residents brought up. So I was just asking, just for this time, this year alone, to extend the time period that the signs can go up, and then possibly have a legal look at the ordinance to see if it complies with law. But at this time, I would like to make a motion to allow the political signs to go up immediately.
I have a question for Mr. Sordy. If we are to allow this and it's in the form of an ordinance, would we have to repeal that ordinance for the year 2021 or 22?
Madam Chair, as we discussed during the department head meeting, my recommendation would be as you pass a resolution that I'll get to in a second, but not to otherwise change the ordinance at this time, but to just pass a resolution that you're not going to enforce certain restrictions within the time, or excuse me, within the sign ordinance at this time. So I'd like to address a couple things. There was a reference that there was a Supreme Court decision that indicates that political signs are unconstitutional, and that's just not the case. The Supreme Court case that several people have alluded to or referenced had to do with the signs for a church. And that was in Gilbert, Arizona. It was Reed versus Town of Gilbert. In that case, the Supreme Court generally stated that the municipal government may not restrict an expression because of its message. And that again had to do with the church signs, not political signs. Now, many people have opined as to that also means political signs. But I don't think anybody disputes, even if you look back at the notice letter from the ACLU from 2014, they agree that the restrictions, that the township still has the right to place restrictions on the time, place, and manner of signs. The issue is really about the restrictions to be permissible need to be narrowly tailored to serve the compelling state interest. So with that in mind, I had several discussions with Mr. Maher, because our sign ordinance is rather comprehensive. It has a lot to do with more than just the just political signs, but it has to do, the majority of the provisions relate to commercial areas and commercial signs. And for that reason, Mr. Maher was working on modifications to the sign ordinance with the Planning Commission, and maybe Mr. Oliver can chime in on this. But he had presented a couple different versions. Had talked with me about a couple different things. At one point, he even presented the revisions that he had done for Washington Township to our Planning Commission as an example. But that all being said, I do agree that at some point we need to evaluate our complete sign ordinance. And I think that that would be appropriate for our Planning Commission to do. But until then, because I know there are concerns regarding COVID-19 and there have been changes and modifications for absentee ballots, I would recommend that the board adopt a resolution for purposes of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the community, not to enforce enforce timing restrictions on any temporary signs until further notice. If the board wants to make an additional resolution or comments regarding the authority of the landowner to the signs, I would suggest that no matter what you do that based on the fact that the signs are temporary in nature, not based on the content of the signs, meaning political for that reason. And I can answer any questions anyone has.
Okay, I'm gonna ask if legal has to write the resolution, or does that fall under the clerk's department, or I guess my question is, what do we do now?
Well, I think that the board can vote tonight by resolution to adopt a resolution that the township, for the purposes of the health, safety, and welfare of the community, not enforce temporary signs, not enforce timing restrictions on temporary signs of any nature.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to work with the clerk's office to come up with whatever, the exact language.
Okay.
I will amend my motion to that effect.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue.
Madam Chair, for the
Support.
record, because that's going to be a challenging motion, can Mr. Sorty or Ms. Goodhue repeat the motion so it can be recorded in the minutes?
Okay, I will make a motion that we pass a resolution not to restrict the timing of any signs in the township at this, for the safety, welfare, and of our residents.
I got a
health.
trustee Oliver has a question on that. Mr. Sorty, are you still there?
Yes.
I got a question. Okay, so if I understand this, somebody could just place a sign anywhere and say it's a temporary sign, and that would continue to go on. I think that might be quite a conflict with a lot of our other sign ordinance. I'm not so sure just to have it go on forever. I think there should be maybe a time frame on these temporary signs. Can
we have it until after the election?
Madam
Yes.
Chair, this is Trustee Bussino. Charlie, I looked at our ordinance today, and the ordinance with political signs mentions political signs, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. So I think this resolution is going to have to address the specific part of the ordinance when we're talking only about political signs, and making sure that we're only talking about timing and nothing else with the sign ordinances. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, because if not, we're going to have every kind of sign out there, and people are going to go, we allowed them to do that. So it probably needs to directly go to political signs.
Mr. Assorti, if we do a resolution, I don't think we have to touch the sign ordinance at this time.
Agreed,
Is
madam.
that correct or not?
Agreed, Madam Supervisor. It's just that you will not enforce the current timing restrictions relative to political signs.
Right.
Okay, that sounds better.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Goodhue.
Madam
Second.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do have a question based on that last statement. Mr. Sorty, then wouldn't we have to allow that with any signs, to make that exception with any signs, not just political signs? I just want to make sure we're not, that's clear, because amending an ordinance for just political signs, will that get us into any legal trouble?
Well, the motion.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Sorty. I looked at their ordinance today.
Excuse me, Mr. Bussino, I have the floor right now if Mr. Sorty could answer my question.
Okay, I looked at the ordinance today, but okay, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Sorty, can you clarify that, please?
Sure. So the first answer is we're not modifying the ordinance. The ordinance is still in place as written.
Okay.
The decision would be not to enforce those timing restrictions. My suggestion is that, in why I mentioned temporary signs versus political signs, is that anything that you do, you need to protect the First Amendment rights of everyone, and the restrictions have to be narrowly tailored. So you can't, for instance, say, John Smith for trustee can't put a sign up, but ABC Cement Company can, that are the same in nature. So again, if you want to specifically reference the political nature as our ordinance exists, that would be okay. But I think we got to be, pretty careful about that.
Okay, that's my concern. So if Ms. Goodhue is making the motion, it should just be on the timing, is what you're saying?
Yes, my suggestion would be that, or recommendation would be that the township not enforce the current timing restrictions on signs of a temporary nature.
And does she have to put a time frame on that for it to end?
I suggested until further notice, but you could certainly, there would nothing be wrong with saying until November 15th or 10th or whatever date you select.
Okay.
I would
Thank
say
you.
until November the 15th. The timing restrictions, I will amend my motion to the timing restrictions end November the 15th.
All right, so there was a motion by Ms. Goodhue.
And supported by Nevers.
Supported by Ms. Nevers, to not enforce the sign ordinance in regards to temporary signs. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Bussino?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Clerk Posey? Yes. Supervisor Dunn?
Yes. That motion carries. Now we come to the resolution to approve pay as you stay program for Macomb Township. And this was on the consent agenda at the beginning, but since we need a resolution, we had to move it to the regular. So, Ms.
Right.
Goodhue, do you have anything for this?
Yes.
Pay as you stay?
I included in the packet a rather large letter from Mr. Rocca, but I don't want to read the whole thing, but I think it's important for our taxpayers to know the gist of it. So I'm going to read 2 paragraphs of it. Our county treasurer, Larry Rocca, has expanded the tax foreclosure prevention options for our taxpayers under the Keep Macomb Your Home program pursuant to state law. And the paragraphs included in the letter are, in an effort to provide additional relief and prevent foreclosures that may result from these uncertain economic times, Mr. Rocca is implementing a four-tiered approach to address financial hardship extensions. This new approach builds upon our successes and takes advantages of new legislation in order to provide greater relief to our taxpayers. This four-tiered approach will not only extend the time taxpayers have to redeem their properties from foreclosure, but will potentially reduce taxes, interest, and fees. The purpose of the attached documents is to provide the standards and procedures to be used as guidelines for determining whether a property owner may be eligible for a reduction in delinquent taxes, interest, and/or fees under a pay-as-you-stay or PAYS agreement, a delinquent tax installment plan, a tax foreclosure avoidance agreement, or an extension of redemption agreement. In order for our taxpayers to have the option of being considered for a PAYS agreement, there are two requirements that must be met under the law. One, Mr. Rocca must provide written notice to each local unit of his intent to implement a PAYS program. Two, the local unit must opt in as a participating community. A city, township, or village whose governing body has elected to participate in the PAYS program under the expanded Keep Macomb Your Home program must pass a resolution approving its participation in the program, and the local treasurer must provide written notice of such approval to the Macomb County Treasurer within 21 days. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to pass a resolution to support the pay-as-you-stay option to mitigate any increase in tax foreclosures in Macomb Township.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Support by Nevers.
seconded by Ms. Nevers to adopt the resolution for pay-as-you-stay. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Bucino?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn?
Yes. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have the Finance Department, and this is in regards to the budget that we just adopted. But the first one is to set the 2020 millage rates, and unfortunately, we have to do these one at a time. Ms. Smith, are you there yet?
Yes, I am. Good evening again. Before you tonight, you have a request to set the 2020 millage rate. As follows, I'll read them. The Township General Operating Millage at 0.6389. The Fire Operating Millage at 2.0000. The Fire Pension Millage at 0.1009. The Police Protection Millage at 1.5500. The Parks and Recreation millage at 0.7784. As Supervisor Dunn had mentioned, these do need to be a separate motion for each millage. And I just wanted to make a comment that two of the millages did go down slightly. The Township General Operating millage and the the Park and Rec millage went down slightly, and the Fire Operating, Fire Pension, and Police Protection stayed the same as it was last year. With that,
Thank
I'm
you.
looking for a motion.
Thanks. All right, we will address the operating millage for the township.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we set the Township General Operating Millage at 0.6389.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Clerk Posey supports.
supported by Ms. Posey to set the millage for operating at 0.6389. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Clerk Posey? Yes, sorry. Trustee Bucino?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, that motion
motion
carries. Okay, next is fire operating.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we set the fire operating millage at 2.0000.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Supported by Smith.
seconded by Ms. Smith to set the millage for fire operating at 2.0000. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
That motion
Next.
carries.
Fire pension.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we set the fire pension millage at 0.1009.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Supported by Smith.
seconded by Ms. Smith to set the millage for fire pension at 0.1009. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. And Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
That motion
Thank
carries.
you. That motion carries. Next, we have the police protection.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we set the police protection millage at 1.5500.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Support by Nevers.
seconded by Ms. Nevers to set the millage for police protection at 1.5500. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, that motion carries. Next, we have Parks and Recreation.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we set the Parks and Recreation millage at 0.7784.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Clerk Posey,
Supported by
support.
seconded by whom?
Clerk Posey.
Clerk Posey to set the millage for Parks and Recreation at 0.7784. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, that motion carries. Next, we have the request to adopt the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Ms. Smith.
Yep, tonight we are looking to, or I'm looking for a motion to adopt the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2021. This does include all of the changes that I discussed earlier in the public hearing section of this. With that, I open up to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair, Clerk Posey will make a motion to adopt the General Appropriations Act for the fiscal year 2020-21.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Support by Goodhue.
seconded by Ms. Goodhue to adopt the General Appropriations Act resolution. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Clerk Posey, yes. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, this resolution is declared adopted. Thank you. Now we'll move on to board comments. We'll start with trustees' comments, and we'll let Mr. Oliver go first this evening.
Yes, thank you, board, members of the community. In lieu of us going forward and starting to get our restaurants open and eateries, I've been talking to our new planner, Josh Brock, and some of the planning commission members, and we're trying to get a way to expand outside eating. Some of the restaurants have been calling the planning department and the building department. So what I'm gonna do is maybe if I could get Mr. Bach on. Mr. Bach, are you on, Josh? Josh, are you there, planner? Okay. Being that he's not there, what we're trying to do.
Charlie?
Yeah.
If the problem, oh, there he is. He's raising his hand, Ryan. If you could unmute him, because he's in the attendees group, not the panelists.
Okay, got it. There you go, Josh. Sorry about that.
There you go, Charlie.
Okay.
Josh, Charlie Oliver. Could you elaborate on some of the things we discussed?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Yes, as Mr. Oliver has mentioned, we have been getting a number of phone calls from local restaurants looking to expand their outdoor eating area. As everybody knows, with the COVID restrictions, now that restaurants are opening back up, they have some restrictions on how much capacity they can have. And that, obviously these businesses have already been impacted financially quite a bit by this pandemic. So what they're looking to do is kind of expand their capacity by providing outdoor seating areas. And there are a number of ways that this can be accomplished, the fastest of which would be some type of special event permit. Typically, though, special event permits are usually only for a couple days. So we are trying to come up with a process where we can do something similar to a special event, but can last for a longer period of time, possibly through the summer, to help get these businesses back on track financially. The goal of this, though, as I think Mr. Oliver was starting to allude to, is that sometimes these different processes to get expanded outdoor eating or any type of outdoor area expansion can sometimes, depending on the situation, go through planning commission or come to the board and can take a long time. These businesses would like to open up outdoor eating like yesterday. So essentially what we're trying to create is a way that we can fast track that, have a set of requirements that the board can approve one time, and then as businesses kind of check the boxes for this application, we can just administratively approve them so that they don't have to wait several weeks to get on an agenda.
Okay. Go ahead. Mr. Van Tifflin, are you in the audience?
Yes, Mr. Oliver, I am.
Yeah. In the engineering side of it, do you see any problem with this?
No, I think between the planning department, building and engineering, we could do an administrative review fairly easily and get these businesses open. I agree with Josh that we need to have, some criterion that are approved by the board, so that, we know what our guidelines are, and so did the business owners, quite frankly. So, but no, I think it's doable.
Okay. Can the three-time officials, elected officials, help you out on this? instead of waiting 2 more weeks to bring it back to the board meeting?
Yeah, what Josh and I had talked about earlier today was perhaps the board giving us permission to get this plan in place and actually have applicants come in between today and the next board meeting on the 24th, and perhaps put in play some sort of either the supervisor or the 3 full-time elected officials review that stuff with us to make sure that, you know, they're on board representing the Board of Trustees, but we're not making business owners wait an additional 2 weeks before the next board meeting for us to, you know, be able to make administrative decisions on these things.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Any board members have anything on this? Want to add to this?
No, Madam Chair, if I may, it's Clerk Posey. I think it's a great idea. I'm sure these restaurants and these businesses could use all the help they could get. I would suggest, instead of trying to coordinate 3 of our schedules in an event to work with the planner and engineer to expedite this, I would suggest that we let the give authorization to the supervisor to work with the planner to develop a criteria that meets the needs for the township and the business owners during this time, so that we don't delay the process any further.
Okay,
That's my suggestion.
thank you.
Madam Chair, I agree 100%. I think anything that we can do to help businesses open, and especially the restaurants, is job one, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Oliver?
Do we need that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
I would so move on the details that we talked about, so we can help these business owners get started.
Motion by Mr. Oliver.
And support of those details by Nevers.
Seconded by
Madam
Ms.
Chair, I'm
Nevers,
just
to
gonna-
authorize the planner and the supervisor and whoever else might want to sit in with us to develop a strategy for creating outdoor seating opportunities for our local restaurants. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes, thank you. That motion carries.
And that's all my comments.
To Ms. Smith, do you have anything this evening?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Ms. Nevers?
Supervisor Dunn, I have nothing else to say except I'm very happy that we've extended the contract for 3 years to the waste hauling. And once again, thank you to Janet Solomon for all her hard work. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bucino?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. First of all, I want to talk about a vote that was taken tonight, because I know there are some out there keeping track of votes for all sorts of motivations right now. But one of the reasons that I did not support the last Foley Mansfield getting paid, but I did this time, is I heard dialogue from this board that some of those charges were related to COVID-19. And the county has definitely outlined the money that is going to be coming to municipalities to address items that fall under that category. So hopefully maybe those bills can be paid under COVID-19, since that's how they were framed tonight. Secondly, though, the reason I did ask Ms. Goodhue that question about why do you not want to pay it, I still think is a bigger issue that this board really hasn't answered. My solution might be that if we get into a situation where we need a lawyer in an emergency, that we develop a list similar to what we have voted on, let's say in a sewer project where there was a vendors that Jerry has on hand that we can't wait for a bid and we can't wait for contract. We got to fix it now. And maybe have a list of attorneys, 4 or 5, that could gap us from till we get to the next meeting to discuss hiring an attorney. That is something I would like to see going forward in the township. It might help with a lot of these situations. But hopefully, again, that question gets answered. I want to thank all residents again for staying engaged. I do want to address a couple of questions that were pointed at me again. I do find the continued comments related to social media very fascinating. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story on that one. But the other thing that I want to talk about is contributions. And I want to do it in the way that I do it with my classroom, a compare and contrast task. If you compare and contrast, and there's 2 meetings in a row that contributions have been brought up, and I welcome that. I don't know how often we want to do this, but there might be a point where I stop talking about this issue. But I do want to compare and contrast donations in a very similar fashion with mine and the clerks. This is not an indictment against the clerks, or I hope she listens to what I'm saying here. Contributions that are being questioned from me in 2016 have to do with a very, very reputable company and very, very reputable people. That is kind of disturbing me because I know some of these people. I do want to clarify something if there's a misunderstanding. I do not believe that I ever said they were Macomb Township residents. I believe I said they were residents in the school district that I teach, and I have connections with either their children or some of their relatives from the classroom. If I did not clarify that, I'm doing that right now. But now, tonight, we have 2 projects that are probably $1 million we approved, and then if you add in the bill runs from a company that helps with consulting work in our township. Again, a very reputable company, and at least 5 employees contributed to the clerk in 2016. Very good people. So what's the difference in the middle is that the clerk is not getting asked about those contributions, and quite frankly, I don't think she should. But the difference is a motivation of why those questions are being asked of me right now. I kind of outlined that to the board in an email last week, and it's something going forward that is going to be addressed in some fashion. So I just want to leave that out there. Like I said, I'm just concerned, and again, I hope the clerk doesn't take offense. I'm just concerned that a very reputable company and some very good employees are getting dragged into some tactics right now. But thanks. That's all I have to say.
Treasurer's comments, Ms. Goodhue?
In the essence of time this evening, I do not have any comments. Thank you.
Clerk's comments, Ms. Posey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take what Trustee Busno just had to say one step further. I take no offense to anything you say, quite honestly. But to say that my campaign contributions have been addressed on social media pages that you are very well associated with for 4 years now. And to say that I've never been challenged or questioned on those is absolutely ridiculous. The difference is that I didn't drag you into it when mine were questioned. But just as everything, when you're questioned or someone calls you out on something, you make it about the clerk. That has been your pattern since the day I got elected, so it no longer offends me, nor do I think it's important. So I'll end on that note. I will say also that there's a quote that I respect, and it's, some people will try to dig up dirt or put an evil slant on the behavior of someone who runs for political office and doesn't agree with them to look more perfect and deflect from their own conduct. So, you know, I have no problem with the people that have contributed to my campaign, just as you don't yours. That same company that you're referring to, I made the motion and denied a change order in a very large amount. So if it had anything to do with anything, I would have voted in favor of that. So I just think you should keep your issues to you, as I have taken the higher road all these years and kept when people have attacked me to me. Now I would like to give you an election update. All registered voters have received an application to vote by absent voter ballot by my office or the Secretary of State. If you wish to vote by mail-in ballot, you must complete the application and return it to the clerk's office to receive your ballot. We have several postage-free options available to return your application to vote by mail and your ballot. There is a drive-up ballot box located in front of Town Hall near the flagpoles, and we have now added an additional drive-up box in front of the Senior Center located off of 23 Mile Road behind the new Public Safety Building in an effort to give you an option to deliver for free in the center of the township. On July 22nd, the Town Hall will be open to the public, and we can assist you with registering to vote, requests for absent voter applications and ballots. However, we do strongly encourage utilizing our website and our ballot drop boxes as much as possible. As of today, we have processed 6,339 applications to vote by absent voter. Just a reminder, all polling locations will still be available on Election Day for in-person voting, and proper personal protection equipment will be provided. Lastly, and very important, the clerk's office is recruiting Election Day workers. Get paid to work on Election Day. You must be at least 16 years of age or registered to vote, or a registered voter. We provide all necessary training, so there's no previous experience necessary. For more details, please visit our website under Clerk's Department Elections tab, or call us at 586-992-0710, extension 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I only have one thing, and that is about the march, the protest march that was held last Saturday. I'm very happy to report there were no incidents. No one was arrested, and I'm very proud of the residents of Macomb Township. Now we will move on. We have 2 items to discuss in closed session. Is there a motion to adjourn to closed session?
Goodhue will
Madam
make
Chair,
that motion.
Clerk Posey makes a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Goodhue
Motion
support.
You're all talking at the same time. Motion
So,
by,
Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Treasurer Goodhue.
thank you, to
You're welcome.
adjourn to closed session. Would you call the roll, please?
Clerk Posey, yes. Treasurer Goodhue.
Yes.
Trustee Bucino.
Yes.
Trustee Nevers.
Yes.
Trustee Oliver.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. We're adjourned to closed session.
We are back in open session. There were 2 items discussed. Posey, are there any motions for item number 23?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Karen Goodhue. I make a motion to authorize legal counsel to sign proposed consent judgment.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Supported by Nevers.
supported by Ms. Nevers. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Treasurer Goodhue.
Yes.
Trustee Nevers.
Yes.
Trustee Bucino.
Yes.
Trustee Oliver.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes, and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any motions in regard to item number 24?
Yes, Madam Chair, Trustee Oliver. I authorize legal to sign the proposed settlement agreement regarding employee number 2199.
Motion by Mr. Oliver,
Support by Goodhue.
supported by Ms. Goodhue. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes, Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
Miss Posey, you forgot me. Trustee Smith, yes.
Oh, yep, you're right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the business for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Ms.
Clerk
Posey.
Posey.
We need
Support by Goodhue? I don't know. Support by Goodhue? I didn't hear
Ms.
anybody.
Goodhue. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes. Clerk Posey, yes. Treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
Trustee Bucino,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Meeting
We're
is
adjourned at
adjourned.